The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like those other energy drinks have. They also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. W's products are made in the USA in an FDA inspected facility that strictly adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. All of the flavors are unique and custom made by W, and you'll never taste our taste anywhere else. The best part about it is they're affordable. W's drinks come out to about $1 per drink, much cheaper than Starbucks or any of those canned energy drinks. To learn more, visit w.gg.com/MRTipton33 and place your order today. Use promo code MrTipton33 and save today. W Energy, be better. What's going on, everybody? I want to tell you about my new friends over at Cleverman. Visit them online at becleverman.com. What they gave me was the energizing face and beard scrub along with the Cleverman face scrubber. And trust me when I say this, the energizing face and beard scrub smells amazing. Combining it with the face scrubber, making sure that your boy was looking as good and sexy as possible, opened up a whole different sensation in my face that I haven't ever felt before. I felt so clean, so fresh, and so clean, like Outcast said, and it helped me feel like I was ready for my day. Make sure you visit them online at becleverman.com and follow them on Instagram at clevermannyc. The link is up in my bio if you want to check out all the amazing products they have. Visit them online, becleverman.com. It is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, hanging out with you here on what is today, Wednesday morning. A lot of stuff that happened in the world of sports. We're going to get to that in just a little bit, but I want to give a shout out to everyone that is tuned in on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and of course on Instagram. The new audience that's over there on Instagram, I want to give a shout out to Michael Vanigino, who has tuned in right now. I hope that I said that name right. EHI _, Samori B, who joined in right now. And Little Buddies New Mexico, who joined in right now over on Instagram. Shout out to all of y'all that are tuned in over there. And of course, everyone that is tuned in on YouTube, X, Facebook, and over on Roku with National Streaming Sports. National Streaming Sports has a whole bunch of different venues for you to watch and enjoy and just have yourself a good old time. Coming up after my show is the Sports Huddle Network, and then, of course, Coast to Coast at noon with Bo. Want to give a shout-out to Tommy Canazzo, who tuned in right now, saying good morning, Tip. We're going to be talking about the NFL free agency. We're going to continue going on with that. Remember, yesterday I kind of debuted. It was just like an organic thing that happened. What is going to happen or following free agency, following what we've seen in free agency, what was going to be my predictions of what was going to go down in the NFC North. So today we're going to continue that with the AFC North. But before I get into that, I want to rehash something that I spoke about on Monday. And I know it's one of those unpopular things whenever you do it because it's college basketball, and I feel like I'm the only person in the group of people that I've been associating with that's really into college basketball, especially right now with March Madness and everything that's going on. And I said that this team right here was not an 11 seed. I repeat, they are not an 11 seed. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. They're from the streets, right? Like it's a strange thing because you saw yesterday that it was the play-in games of the NCAA tournament. And with the play-in games, you have 2 16 seeds playing against each other. Then you have the 2 11 seeds playing against each other. South Alabama versus Austin Peay or whoever it was, that game comes down to the wire. Last second bucket goes in, 16 seed versus 16 seed. Obviously, bad versus bad is always going to give me good football, good basketball. It always becomes a fun game, right? Then you had 11 versus 11, which was North Carolina taking on San Diego State. And on this show, Sonia Pearson over at Prim and Proper Sports, who's going to be on a little bit later on today. Remember, this afternoon, I'm also going to be on the National Professional Sports Show, 4 o'clock this afternoon. Sonia Pearson came on and was like, no, don't discount San Diego State. They're going to be all right. They're a good team. They'll be okay. And this whole time I said, North Carolina is not an 11 seed. Whenever you have those matchups, an 11 versus 11, a 16 versus 16, it's going to be a close game, right? It's supposed to always be a close game. Carolina comes out of this game and beats the hell. I was going to say they beat the dog shit, and I'm just going to say it right now, okay? I apologize, YouTube. I apologize to people that want to get monetized. Do not follow my example. I am terrible at this, but I'd rather be real with you and give you my actual thoughts than start continuing censoring myself and doing all the other nonsense that I've been doing. North Carolina came out and beat the dog shit out of San Diego State University. Mike Vick style. Hey, buddy. Probably shouldn't have said that last in, but it's just what happened. North Carolina comes out. They dominate. Absolutely dominate San Diego State University. 95-68, and it wasn't even that close. 95-68, and it wasn't even that damn close. And we're going to sit here and pretend like Carolina didn't belong in the NCAA tournament whenever I told you the losses they had were losses that were close games to the best teams in the country. You disrespect Carolina, put them in as an 11 seed, and then now all of a sudden it's like they shut up all the critics, they shut up all this and that. There shouldn't have been critics. And I know it sounds contradictory whenever I say this about Carolina because it's not like they were the best team in the ACC. Because I said that I wanted more mid-majors in college basketball, especially in the NCAA tournament. Carolina wasn't one of those teams. Carolina wasn't a bad team. Carolina, yes, they won 22 games. They lost 13. That's considered a bad season for Carolina. The University of Texas at El Paso would do unspeakable things to try to have a season like that. But the fact of the matter comes down to Carolina came out here. They whooped the hell out of San Diego State. They shut everybody up of, they shouldn't be there. They're probably going to lose this game. It's going to be closer than what it should be. It winds up being a 27-point blowout. And again, it wasn't even that close. Carolina, I guess the reason why I'm upset with this is because Carolina is occupying the space that should be held down for the Cinderella story, right? Carolina making a run as an 11 seed is taking away Cinderella. Carolina has now become Cinderella, and Carolina is not a Cinderella team. Carolina is not a team that you look at and say, oh, man, they're the lovable underdog here. Right? Kind of like what people were trying to do with Kansas City over the last couple of years of like, oh, no, the Chiefs, they're a lovable underdog. No, they're not. They're the Kansas City Chiefs. I love an underdog story, right? I always want to see the underdog do something. How pathetic would it be in this NCAA tournament if the only underdog we get, the only upsets we get in the tournament wind up being North Carolina just doing what North Carolina does, because I can envision a scenario where North Carolina upsets Ole Miss. Because I told y'all at the beginning that Carolina is not an 11 seed. Carolina is like anywhere between a 5 to a 7 to maybe an 8 seed. They're not a 7 seed. No matter what you want to try to convince yourself, or an 11 seed rather, they're not an 11 seed team. I can envision North Carolina upsetting Ole Miss and watch it not happen this way. And think about this. Think about what betting lines are. Think about how good the ACC is compared to the middle-of-the-road SEC teams that are out there. Ole Miss is the 6th seed. Carolina is the 11th seed. And Carolina is the favorite to win this game. That rarely happens. You'll get an upset from a favorite. That doesn't happen in college basketball. That doesn't happen in sports in general, right? It goes back to like the seeding issues that the NFL has, where Minnesota Vikings are the first team of the wild card. They have to go play a wild card game despite winning 14 games, right? They should have been rewarded with playing a playoff game at home. Instead, they have to go on the road to Los Angeles and play in Arizona. I feel like I'm heated about this and no one cares. I'm just screaming into the abyss. And I understand why people don't care. And I understand why people kind of are like, Tip, just stop with it already. You spent 10 minutes on it now. It's been enough time. It genuinely has been. I'm just saying. I'm going to be watching this NCAA tournament. I might be going over to B-Dub sometime this week, maybe this weekend, so we can see some stuff. We'll see. I'll let y'all know what happens. We're going to be bringing back Fire and Ice this weekend as well. So if you're in the El Paso area, Fire and Ice, we're going to be bringing it back. Mike Tipton, Brandon the Iceman Cone. We're running it back, baby. I got to make sure I contact Daver. Daver's got to be a part of that as well. Anyway. Another thing that hit the headlines, which I thought was just poetry in motion, is sources from the Minnesota Vikings saying that the Minnesota Vikings are going to roll, quote unquote, roll with J.J. McCarthy as their quarterback and are moving beyond their discussions with Aaron Rodgers. I am unnecessarily happy about this because now, once again, the amount of teams that are out there that are going to be willing to sign Aaron Rodgers is dwindling lower and lower and lower. And again, if I'm Pittsburgh, I want to roll with Russell Wilson. He has a connection with DK Metcalf. They played together for a few years in Seattle, right? Like they can make something work there. Not to mention he's a good deep ball thrower, and you got two guys that can run deep routes in George Pickens and in DK Metcalf. But I also just want the drama of Mike Tomlin having to rein in the ego of Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. Because I feel like right now the only landing spot for Aaron Rodgers, if he wants to be on a contending team, isn't going to be the Giants. It's going to be Pittsburgh. That's the only team that's left right now. If Minnesota's saying, look, we're moving on, we're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy, then, hey, they know what the hell they're doing. They've got their team figured out the way they want their team to be figured out. And it might just be going off of the same thing that I mentioned yesterday of if this team can make Sam Darnold look good, then they ought to also be able to help J.J. McCarthy look good. I don't think they win 14 games, but I can see this team being a double-digit winning team, right? But it's just now, and this is what I thought. Like, I thought J.J. McCarthy had torn his ACL. He had just torn a meniscus. So he got to sit back and watch and learn and see in the NFL, like, how things are done. Get up to game speed. I think sitting out this season without an ACL injury, it was a torn meniscus, and yes, you have to have surgery for it, but that's normally like a 6 to 8 week recovery time. For him to have just sat back on the bench the whole time, watch Sam Darnold do his thing, learn about the NFL game and all those other things that are like that, that's what I think is going to be huge for him. Aaron Rodgers, though, once again, the windows of teams that are going to be out there willing to take on Aaron Rodgers is starting to dwindle more and more and more. That's wild. Starting to dwindle more and more and more. Pittsburgh looks to be the only spot, and I really want Pittsburgh to just sign Russell Wilson so that the whole drama with Aaron Rodgers, imagine how much of an asshole you have to be. Sorry, Roku. How much of a jerk you got to be. You jerk. How much of that you got to be one of the greatest of all time and be forced into retirement. I am here. Give it to me in my veins the way that I need it to be. Just, I am done with this whole thing with Aaron Rodgers. Can we move on past it? And I feel like we're about to watch teams say we're just going to move on past it. What he brings to the table in terms of talent isn't worth the squeeze of having to deal with him and his nonsense. And think about the fall from grace that is for Aaron Rodgers. You go on a team that's in the NFC Championship game perennially, always looked at as a Super Bowl contender. You say they don't have enough talent around you, and you leave them so that you can go on and do whatever the hell it is that you want to do, smoke, drinking your ayahuasca, doing mushrooms, all kinds of stuff. Instead, it looks like it's coming down to the end of the career for Aaron Rodgers. I shouldn't be happy about it the way that I am. Makes me feel like a bit of an ass, but you know what? I'm happy about it. I am here for it. Aaron Rodgers, you made your bed, now you lie in it. Really that simple. Nicole Hardman getting a 1-year deal from the Packers. We're going to just go ahead and move on past that. And then Cooper Kupp getting a deal here with the Seattle Seahawks. And I need somebody to help me out with trying to figure out what it is that the Seattle Seahawks are doing. You trade away DK Metcalf. You trade away Geno Smith. You give a lot of money to Sam Darnold. You give a lot of money to DeMarcus Lawrence. You seem to be making moves, but it also feels like you're trying to tank and not tank at the same time. Like you just want to be in purgatory the entire time. Destiny saying, woohoo, about time. Talking about the forcing out of Aaron Rodgers in the NFL right now. I am here for it. If that's the way it goes, like obviously that's a sad way to go. You want to see legends go out on their shield. This dude went out with a torn Achilles, becoming a meme of running out with the flag, saying, how long can I last? Running out with the flag. 4 plays later, I'm done. Augustine saying that Seattle wants to be the Cowboys. I don't know about all that. But I feel like the division is up for grabs in the NFC West, right? Like I like the Devontae Adams signing in LA. Everything that San Francisco has done just weeks after I said that they would be the team to beat, where they just went on a fire sale and got rid of everybody that they possibly could. Hell, I've even seen that they're trying to shop Brandon Ayuk to see what they can get for him. San Francisco seems to be mailing it in. Arizona is always going to be Arizona. They're not going to do anything that's worth value. Seattle, I thought if they kept Geno, if they had kept DK Metcalf, if they would have been able to do some stuff, right? Like obviously you spend a ton of money in free agency. Why wouldn't you spend some of that money on DK Metcalf to keep him on your team? Instead, you go out and you get Cooper Kupp. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess, maybe, right? Like he grew up in the area. Maybe that's where he's from, something like that. I just don't understand what it is that Seattle's really trying to do here. Destiny saying it's karma. I don't think anyone wants to be on the Cowboys or anybody wants to be the Cowboys. Maybe in the 90s when they were winning, but not now. It's torture. Wow. Hating on the Dallas Cowboys. Hating ass haters. Nobody wants to be the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm trying to figure this out, what Seattle's doing, because do these moves make them better? Like, I guess maybe signing DeMarcus Lawrence makes the defense better, but is Geno Smith that much worse than Sam Darnold? Like genuinely, is he worse than Sam Darnold? Augustine saying, exactly. You didn't see my sarcasm, LOL. Wait, you're sarcastic? No, not you, Augustine. You are the most just straightforward guy. I've never seen you be sarcastic at all. Like literally ever. It's never happened. Nobody wants to be the Cowboys. Unless it's just hanging out with Jerry Jones and having yourself a good old time. The mountain of Scarface material that you get if you hang out with Jerry Jones. Augustine, I'm glad you're here right now. You missed my rant earlier about the University of North Carolina. I told you all they weren't an 11 seed. You know how long it's been since I wore a jersey? I see the score and I think to myself, what I need to do is just be an ass. So I bring out the jersey, the Michael Jordan Carolina jersey. I told you they weren't an 11 seed. I told you all they weren't an 11 seed. They won that game by damn near 30 points, and it wasn't that close. It wasn't even a 30-point game. It should have been a 40-point blowout, but you just have mercy on other teams, and you say, maybe we just don't. We got nothing to do here. Cooper Kupp, whenever he signed, he says it's a full circle moment for him. He's 31 years old. He's from the Seattle area. Destiny's saying, go Duke. That's going to be a problem. You can beat Carolina 3 times in a year, but you don't beat them 4 times in a year. I tell you that much. I'll just keep moving the goalposts. You can beat them 4 times in a year, but you won't beat them 5 times in a year. And I try to get it right because I guess Cooper Kupp, maybe he has a little bit left in the tank, right? Maybe that cup is half full and not empty. That was cheesy. You all deserve better than that. I'm sorry. That cup is half full. That's so stupid. Anyway, maybe there's something there. But is he a caliber of receiver the way that Justin Jefferson is, the way that DK Metcalf is? When you look at what Seattle has, and now I got to bring up what Seattle has because I wasn't expecting this. Whenever you look at what Seattle has done in this offseason, in free agency, it's not great, right? Like, okay, so you gave a lot of money to Sam Darnold. You gave a lot of money to DeMarcus Lawrence. You go out, you sign Josh Jones for your offensive line. You get wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Once again, great name, all-time name. And then you go out and you get Cooper Kupp. You keep free agents that are on your list right now of Ernest Jones, Jaron Reed, Josh Jobe, and Cody White. You lose offensive line help in Laken Tomlinson and Stone Forsythe. You lose a cornerback, Trey Brown, who goes to the 49ers. And then obviously a backup tight end in Pharaoh Brown, who went to the Miami Dolphins. The jersey is nice. I will say that. It is a very nice jersey. Shout out to my guy, Raymond Letterman Photography, who just tuned into the show over on Instagram as well. Shout out to that. But you look at what the Seahawks are doing. And I'm going to compare that now to what the LA Rams are doing, because we've already said, right? San Francisco is no longer the top of the top of the division. All the moves that they've done, everything that they've done has just kind of they're done. Like the window has closed. We always talk about it. You heard me talking earlier this year about Detroit's window, right? Like Detroit's window closing because they weren't going to be able to run it back. Look at the amount of turnover that the Lions have had over the last couple of weeks. And you can sit back and say to yourself, okay, maybe we got some issues, right? So you look at the newcomers that they have in LA, Devontae Adams, Poona Ford, Nate Landman, and then Coleman Shelton, right? Helping out the defense. That's what they're looking at, is trying to help out the defense. They keep Tutu Atwell. They keep Jimmy Garoppolo, the good-looking Jimmy Garoppolo. Porn star Jimmy gets to stay in LA. Alaric Jackson, Laurel Murchison, and Ronnie Rivers are people that they're keeping. They lose Bobby Brown III. What a great name. He ain't going to hurt nobody. Neville Gallimore leaves them as well. So does Michael Hokecht. Jacob Hummel, Jonah Jackson, Tyler Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Hunter Long, Demarcus Robinson, Christian Rosenboom, and Trey Tomlinson. Lost a lot, gained some. Are they doing enough to be considered a good enough team in the NFC West? And I just don't see it that way. I just don't see either one of these teams doing anything that makes you feel like, oh, okay, they're fantastic right now. It just doesn't seem like either one of those teams have done enough to win the division, but the division's going to be up for grabs. So maybe I'm just a jerk, right? Maybe that's what it is I'm just a jerk. What do I know about things? Shout out to Heaton0228 for joining in over on the Instagram page. If you are new to what we're doing here, this is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on national streaming sports on Roku and, of course, on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram now as well, trying to just talk sports. It's like hanging out with your buddy at the bar, but your buddy is extremely loud and annoying, and it happens to just be me. Which is super funny because whenever I go to the bar, I'm actually not very talkative. I just sit back and listen to everyone else have their conversations and do their thing, right? Like that's kind of the way that I go around doing my stuff, at least whenever I go to the bar. So I said, once again, yesterday we went over all the free agent signings that happened in the NFC North, right? I said Chicago's going to get better. Detroit's going to take a step back. Minnesota's obviously going to take a step back. Green Bay, I feel like they might stay the same. They might get just a little better. I don't see them being worse, right? And I said, okay, now what we're going to do here is look through the AFC North because we might as well just compare division, see what's going on with free agency, see what's going to happen with the NFL draft that is coming up in just a little over a month. And see if these teams got better or if these teams got worse. Now, obviously, there's one team here in the division of the AFC North that has a huge question mark, and that's going to be who's going to be the quarterback, right? If Pittsburgh brings back Russell Wilson, I think they're better. But if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, I know it sounds like sacrilege, but if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, I feel like they are worse. And it's just because Aaron Rodgers isn't that guy anymore. Look at what Pittsburgh was able to bring in terms of talent, right? They go out, they trade for DK Metcalf. They bring in Malik Harrison. They bring in Scotty Miller. So what they're trying to do is get some depth at wide receiver. Same thing whenever they bring in Ben Skoranek. They bring back Mason Rudolph as your backup quarterback. They go out and get Isaiah Loudermilk to help out on the defensive line. TJ Watt's going to come back healthy, so that's going to be fun for them. They go out and they get Kenneth Gainwell from Philadelphia. They go out and they get Darius Slay that Philadelphia let go of, and Philadelphia's defense has just been sacrificed, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them in the future. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. They go out, they get Juan Thornhill or re-sign Juan Thornhill, and they get Brandon Echols, right? Let go of Dan Moore. Justin Fields goes somewhere else. James Daniels goes somewhere else on the offensive line. Deontay Johnson goes over to the LA. I was going to say the LA Clippers, the LA Chargers. Mike Williams is gone. Najee Harris is gone, right? Like they had a lot of losses in Pittsburgh. But I still feel like they got better with the signing of DK Metcalf. Now, it comes down to whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to, or I guess what Pittsburgh does at quarterback. You're not going to let Mason Rudolph be your number one quarterback. Like, you just cannot do that. That would be suicide for your team. Shout out to Janae819 who tuned in and Sports Around the tuning in over on Instagram. Shout out to y'all for tuning into the show. Once again, everyone that is tuned in over on the various other platforms, Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, and of course, National Streaming Sports. But I look at what Pittsburgh has done, and I say it just depends on what they do at quarterback. Even if they bring in Jameis Winston, which, again, I know I might be the only person in the world that's this high on Jameis Winston, where I think Jameis Winston can be a halfway decent starting quarterback in the NFL, where I think Jameis Winston is better than Aaron Rodgers. And I'm just going off of what we saw last year, right? Again, Aaron Rodgers got a lot of empty calorie games. I know so did Jameis Winston, but you don't expect that type of output from Jameis Winston whenever he's throwing to me and you. When he's throwing to me and you as his only wide receivers. There was nobody for him to throw to in Cleveland. Tommy Cadazza saying, I think Winston is a better option than Mason Rudolph. Oh, dude, me and you, Augustine and that limp noodle of an arm that he has would be a better option than Mason Rudolph. Augustine saying, yes, you are the only one. I will die on this hill, man. Aaron Rodgers is not better than Jameis Winston now. I know I say a lot of things in jest. I hope that you all realize, like, I am being truthful and honest to thine own self be true when it comes down to this take. Aaron Rodgers is not better than Jameis Winston now. Career-wise, sure. Now, definitely not. It all depends, once again, on what they do, Pittsburgh, at the quarterback position. If it's Mason Rudolph at quarterback right now, I feel like you're punting on the season. You'll wind up being one of the worst teams in the division. You'll be there fighting the Browns for who's going to be worse. If it's Russell Wilson, I feel like the addition of DK Metcalf allows this team to at least be competitive with Baltimore. Tommy Cananza saying they should have just kept Kenny Pickett if they were going to run Mason Rudolph out there. Yeah, I agree the same way, man. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing? Just bringing back Mason Rudolph. Like, you had Kenny Pickett. You could have just left him there on the team. Instead, now we have to say Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. And it just doesn't have the gravity. Like I don't think the words Super Bowl champion have ever been devalued the way that they are whenever you combine them with the name Kenny Pickett. Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. Augustine saying Pickett got a bad rap. He had some really good moments. I loved going out there just pissing off Eagles fans. Because I made the Spider-Man meme, but I put Kenny Pickett's head on it and Jalen Hurts' head on it. I was like, they're basically the same guy, Kenny Pickett and Jalen Hurts. Look how the offense doesn't skip a beat. Jalen Hurts, system quarterback. I don't genuinely believe that, but I just like making people mad. That's one of my favorite pastimes. Augustine, I genuinely want to know, what good moments did you see from Kenny Pickett? Oh, man, this is a good one. Mason Rudolph or Trey Lance? You know, prior to that last game of the season, where it was, let's see what Trey Lance brings to the table. Prior to that game, I would have said Trey Lance. I genuinely would have said Trey Lance. Now I think I'm going to go more Mason Rudolph, and it's only because we saw Trey Lance roll out to the left, have a clean look at a guy 4 yards down the field in the end zone in Rico Dowdle, and spike that thing 2 yards down, right? Like, how do you throw a 4-yard pass 2 yards short as a quarterback in the end? Like, if you're going to throw it and you're going to miss, maybe you just launch that sumbitch into the stands, right? I would much rather have seen that, where it's like, okay, he's just showing off the cannon. He's got a cannon. He just doesn't know how to use it. As opposed to, he has a limp noodle of an arm like Augustine, 4-yard pass, and I'm going to throw it 2 yards as a little duck that just floats out of my arms, out of my hand. Augustine saying with the Steelers, he had some good moments. And it says, I think Trey Lance had a good game overall in that last game. I agree. I thought it was a solid game. But that's a hell of a pass, man. That's a big one to miss. That's a big one to miss. Augustine saying, I've got a better arm than you for sure. I would love to see this. Augustine, I tell you what, I'll throw right-handed. I'm left-handed. Remember that. I'll throw right-handed, and I bet you it's better than yours. I will put, we can do this for charity if we need to. We're going to make that one happen, Augustine. The old man Olympics. Which old man can throw this ball further? There are going to be multiple rotator cuff surgeries in El Paso that weekend. Augustine says, when? You let me know, my guy. You let me know. I'm on your time. I've seen Dak Prescott miss that throw too, to be fair to Trey. Okay, I agree with that. But at least Dak was like launching it, right? Again, there's something more forgivable about rolling out to the left. You got that weird, you're running backwards. You got to try to get your feet set and then launch the ball, right? You launch that sumbitch. It flies into the air. It doesn't just float down 2 yards short on a 4-yard pattern. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm being too much of a jerk to Trey Lance because I thought Trey Lance was going to mean something. I thought he was going to be meaningful whenever he was in Dallas. Clearly, I was wrong. The Cleveland Browns, the other team in the AFC North, right? Let's look at what the Browns have done here in free agency. What players have the Browns lost? Pickett in 2021 was 11-2 with 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 7 INTs. You are drunk, Augustine. There's no way Kenny Pickett had that season. I'm going to go over here. We're going to see, because I know that wasn't Kenny Pickett's season. Augustine, for Kenny Pickett's career, he is 15-10 with 15 total touchdowns. He is 15-10 with 15 total touchdowns. What the hell are you seeing? Because you can see right there, 15-10 with 15-10 for a career, 15 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. You're talking about college. Who cares about college? College doesn't transfer to the NFL, guy. Oh, we're going to talk about college quarterbacks. Oh, okay. Jordan Palmer was a halfway decent college quarterback. That don't mean nothing. Come on now. Come on. I very rarely get mad. Augustine, you made me mad. College. Come on now. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. The 11-2 thought it would give it away. I was like, what? I thought you were out there smoking some better things than I was smoking. Augustine, we don't put in college numbers in the NFL. It just doesn't happen. We're not doing that. Marcus Mariota was a great college quarterback. Tim Tebow, arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time. Johnny Manziel, a great college quarterback. What did they do in the NFL? Remember, there used to be a genuine conversation here. Would you rather have Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota? And I feel like that's a joke because everyone now would say, with as bad as Jameis Winston's career has been, you would take Jameis Winston's career over Marcus Mariota because at least Jameis Winston is playing in the damn games. Vince Young, right? There we go. Vince Young, a great example. How amazing college quarterbacks can be. It's college, man. It's not the same as the NFL. It's just absolutely not the same as in the NFL. Oh, my God. We're going with this. Tim Tebow got a bad rap in the NFL. Now I know you're drunk. Augustine, my whole life, I like you've always been like, a guy that doesn't drink. You're a good dude all around. And now, like, I feel like you fell off the wagon. So I think we need to have an intervention here of what's going on, because there is no way you can be like, Tim Tebow got a bad rap. Tim Tebow got an opportunity to play with the Patriots, and Bill Belichick was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. We're going to move on from that. You know what? I appreciate the banter back and forth, though. I genuinely do. Okay, so this is what the Cleveland Browns lost in free agency so far. They lost defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, who went over to the Arizona Cardinals on a $29 million deal. They lose right tackle James Hudson, who goes over to the Giants. I'm good with that. If you want to sign an offensive lineman from the Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, you go ahead, you do your thing. They lose Michael Ford, the cornerback, to the Atlanta Falcons. They lose Charlie Huglet, the long snapper, to the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas got to keep their long snapper, so take that, Philadelphia. We don't have to worry about bringing in a brand new long snapper. Ha ha. They also lose quarterback Bailey Zappi to the Kansas City Chiefs, and Juan Thornhill, the safety, over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Signing-wise, they bring in Cornelius Lucas, the left tackle, from the Washington Commanders. They bring in Malik Collins, a defensive tackle, from the San Francisco 49ers. They re-signed Devin Bush, their inside linebacker, and then they bring in an outside linebacker in Joe Tryon from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to be bad again. Like it's that simple, right? So we look at the draft for Cleveland. Again, I don't think at least that Tennessee should take Cam Ward number 1 overall. Tommy Canazza saying crack is whack, Augustine. Crack is whack. So I don't think Cam Ward needs to go number 1 overall. So Hall of Famer Trent Sieg, Dallas Cowboys long snapper. I heard he was 11-2 in Pop Warner. Man. You know what? Would you rather have Kenny Pickett's career or Trent Sieg's career? Kenny Pickett has a ring, but Trent Sieg is, he's signed long-term deals. He's been in the NFL for a minute now. Tennessee doesn't take Cam Ward number 1 overall, so I think what that does is he drops over to Cleveland. Cleveland drafts themselves another quarterback, adding to the long list of quarterbacks the Cleveland Browns have had since they came back to the NFL. And Cam Ward is just going to wind up being that. Augustine saying, my day is good. I'm glad I'm getting people pissed. LOL. You can hide behind that. We all know that you were being serious about that Kenny Pickett and Tim Tebow take. We know that. So you can hide behind, I'm getting people mad, but I don't think so, my guy. I think we see through all that. Tommy Canazza saying Sieg all day. Exactly. You're with Dallas Cowboys. You're the long snapper. A lot of the times people say the most important position in the NFL is quarterback, right? And then a lot of people say the most popular position, one of the most stressful positions in the NFL, is to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I would go on to venture that being the long snapper for the Dallas Cowboys is the most prestigious and the most rewarding position that you can have in NFL history. Trent Sieg, you're that guy, and we got nothing but love for you. I'm going to go out and get me a Trent Sieg jersey. Number 44 for the Dallas Cowboys, Trent Sieg. We're not mad. We're just amused by your foolishness, to put it nicely. I like that. Respectfully, though. Respectfully. We're amused by this. Seeing through that one like a glass window, my guy. Tim Tebow honestly could have had a good NFL career. I mean, Hurts is doing it. I think that's the difference between them is Hurts was a better passer. Like, even in college, Hurts was a better passer than what Tim Tebow was. I think if Tebow was willing to do, like if he was willing to do the Taysom Hill, right? Like if he could be a wide receiver, line him up at tight end, line him up at, as a Swiss Army knife, the Taysom Hill, the Deebo Samuel role. If Tim Tebow would have been willing to do that, I think he would have had a long NFL career, and I think that it would have been more than what he got out of it, right? Like I get you, Augustine. The one pass that he threw in Denver where it looked like, holy hell, that pass beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? We look like, wow, maybe he has something. But every other pass outside of that one was bad. And it wasn't just bad, it was bad. Just like the Cleveland Browns are going to be this upcoming year, no matter what they do in the NFL draft. Whether it's Abdul Carter, whether it's Shadur Sanders, whether it's Cam Ward, the Cleveland Browns are going to be absolutely terrible. So, moving on. We spoke about Pittsburgh. It all depends on what Pittsburgh does at quarterback, right? I am of the belief Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, I think you're okay. Aaron Rodgers, I think it's a bad move. If you roll it back with Mason Rudolph, that's a terrible move. Maybe, you know what? I will say this. Aaron Rodgers, right now, better than Mason Rudolph. That's, once again, saying that you are the tallest little person out there. You're better than Mason Rudolph. At least that. Going over to the Baltimore Ravens, they've had a busy offseason as well. They go out, they sign Cooper Rush, backup quarterback from the Dallas Cowboys, giving him $12 million on his deal. They go out and get inside linebacker Jake Hummel from the LA Rams. They re-sign Tylan Wallace. They re-sign Patrick Ricard. They go out and get DeAndre Hopkins to help them out in the receiving corps, and they bring back guard Ben Cleveland. As far as losses that they have, they lost their guard center, Patrick McCary. He goes over to the Jacksonville Jaguars on a $37.5 million deal. They lose cornerback Brandon Stevens, who's going over to the Jets on a $36 million deal. Malik Harrison, the linebacker, going inside the division over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lose Chris Board, a linebacker, going over to the New York Giants. And then they lose tackle Josh Jones. Josh Jones going over to the aforementioned Seattle Seahawks. Augustine saying, I think Tebow at the end of the day had something that isn't coachable, the winning mentality. I agree with that, right? Like, it was a thing. There for a while, it was a thing. But I will say this, the sun shines on the dog's ass every now and then. And I think that run that he had was never going to be replicable. He was never going to be able to do that. I don't think Tim Tebow as a quarterback would have been successful in the NFL. Obviously, we saw it wasn't successful in the NFL. Tim Tebow as a Swiss Army knife, now that right there would have been great. I think that would have been great. Tim Tebow, the Swiss Army knife. When you look at what Baltimore has, as we talk about the AFC North here, what's going to happen here in the AFC North, when you look at what Baltimore has, and you look at where they're drafting right now, where the Ravens are currently drafting number 27, and according to some, it looks like they're going to go out and get help on the defensive side, getting safety. Malachi Starks from Georgia is who's projected to go to the Baltimore Ravens. Exactly, like the guy in New Orleans, just like Taysom Hill. That's exactly what I'm talking about, just like Taysom Hill. If he had done that, if he had done the Deebo Samuels the same way that like those guys were, if Tim Tebow decided he wanted to have that mindset, I feel like he would have had a much more successful and longer career in the NFL. I'll give a shout out to Don't Have Time for Pasta, who tuned in over on the Instagram page. That's a great name. I'm intrigued enough to want to click on that name and see what happens there with that. All right. Baltimore, again, like they're clearly the best team in the division. You have Lamar Jackson, a multiple-time MVP. You have Isaiah Likely, a great tight end. Mark Andrews, still a really good tight end. You have Derrick Henry, who I believe is one of the best running backs in the NFL, if not for Saquon Barkley. You have a bunch of talented guys on this team. They should continue to be the cream of the crop in their division. But to me, the team that's going to be the most interesting team to watch here is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. What is this team going to do? They go out this weekend. They give huge money to T. Higgins. They give huge money to Jamar Chase. They've already given huge money to Joe Burrow. So we know they're going all in on offense, right? Not all in the way that Jerry Jones does, but all in the way Jerry Jones finds his glory hole. Cincinnati going all in on those three guys. But that means that they're going to lose out on defense. And that was always going to be their biggest issue. Augustine's saying they need to protect Joe Burrow. So let's look at what they've done so far in free agency. They go out and they get a running back. They re-signed Samaje Perine. They get him from Kansas City. It's a 2-year deal worth $3.6 million. They get outside or inside linebacker Oren Burks from the Philadelphia Eagles, giving him a $5 million deal. They get a defensive tackle, Tardell Slayton, which I kind of like, from the Green Bay Packers. They re-signed Marco Wilson. They re-signed Cameron Sample, and they re-signed Joseph Osayi from all those defensive players on their team. But they're going to lose out on Hendrickson, who is their best defensive player. You can tell right there that they didn't address their offensive line. And honestly, their offensive line got worse because players that they lost. Guard, Alex Kappa going over to the Vegas Raiders on an $11 million deal. Akeem Davis-Gaither, linebacker, going over to the Arizona Cardinals on a $10 million deal. They lose defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, which I thought was a huge loss for them, to the Houston Texans. Khalil Herbert going over to the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe not a big deal, but I thought he probably could have got more run in Cincinnati. But you know what? Not a huge deal. And then they lose out again on defensive tackle Jay Tufele, who is going over to the New York Jets. The thing is, and I'm going to look up right now what their salary cap is at, what Cincinnati's salary cap is at. Because they're not going to be able to really sign a lot of players right now. Cincinnati's salary cap is going to be at $8 million once everything gets hit in the next couple of days. $8 million to try to address your offensive line, which was so bad because Joe Burrow is going to be running for his life. Like Augustine said, you need to protect Joe Burrow. Another way that you protect Joe Burrow is by not having huge deficits in the game. Their defense still really, really bad. Let's look at the rankings. In defense right now for team stats. There we go. There we are. The Cincinnati Bengals given up a ton of yards last year, gave up a ton of points last year. They were not a great defense, but whenever you look at they weren't like a terrible defense, they weren't a great defense. You look at the names that surround them. It's the Carolina Panthers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Las Vegas Raiders. Those are the teams that are comparable to what the Cincinnati Bengals had. And you can say the Panthers went out and made their defense a little better. The Cowboys are going out doing all the things they need to do to make their defense a little better. It's just simply that the Bengals don't have the money to address their defense because they gave all the money to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Augustine saying if the Bengals defense just decides to attack the offense, they'll be okay. The key is offense. I get that. But we saw they had one of the best offenses in the NFL last year, Augustine, and they still fell short. It took a Herculean effort from this team to put together a win streak to just make it a salvageable season. Like we got to remember that. They won, I want to say, was it 7 straight games to end the season? Maybe 8 straight games to win the season? They went on a hell of a run just to make it a respectable season. And they've gotten worse. They got worse on the offensive line. They got worse on the defense now. You're saying, yeah, they had some injuries. Of course they did. T. Higgins, that's a big injury. But if all you're going to do is sink money into into offensive weapons, your offensive line is worse now. That's a huge issue. Your defense is worse now. That's going to be a huge issue. So, yeah, you can put up a ton of points. I'm fine with them putting up a ton of points. But come on, man. Tommy Canazza saying, before you end the show, Tip, I heard Micah's new contract is coming very soon, and it's going to be a very team-friendly deal. And he told the Cowboys they must use the savings to bring in top free agents. I like that. I heard the same, too. I don't know if you have to bring in top free agents thing is an actual thing, but I did hear that his new contract is going to be extremely team-friendly. It's following like the Mahomes route, right? Of we're gonna backload a lot of the money. We're gonna guarantee a lot in the signing bonus. But what that does is it gives us maneuverability to sign players next season, to do this, to do that. I would assume that if he's taking that kind of deal, that ownership, the general managers, all of those things, the higher ups in the Cowboys would know, okay, now we've got to actually go out and attack, right? The Dallas Cowboys still have $41 million they can spend in salary cap. I just don't know how much of that they're actually going to spend. When we look at the top list of available free agents that are out there, is Stephon Diggs the guy? Is Keenan Allen? Do you bring in Von Miller? I'd love to see Von Miller in Dallas, actually. Do you bring back Amari Cooper? What is it that you do if you're the Dallas Cowboys? Do you go out and get offensive line help? Like, what is it that you do with those savings that you get off of Micah Parsons' new deal? I can't wait to see what the actual deal is, Tommy. So I've been like kind of just watching the wires. Can't wait to see what comes out. So we'll see about that. All right, everybody, want to give a big shout out to y'all for tuning into the show. Everyone that tuned in over on Instagram, I appreciate that as well. Tommy saying you got to go after all the above. You get everybody. We're running it back. We're bringing everybody in, except for Aaron Rodgers. We're not bringing in Aaron Rodgers. I'll be back a little bit later on today. I'm going to be on at 4 o'clock here in El Paso. I will share that live out on YouTube and on Facebook. The Tipton Sports Broadcasting Network Facebook page is where I will be sharing that out as well, along with YouTube for those that have been tuning in on YouTube. The National Professional Sports Show, we'll be doing that a little bit later on this afternoon. I will see you all then. Stay tuned for this message from our amazing sponsors, BetUS and RevAutoCarCare.com. Sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only. Some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it'll take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly. Are you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%.